Hi everyone, welcome to your bits orientation. I'm just going to wait to see if we've got any sort of latecomers and then I'll get started in a couple of minutes. Okay, I think we can get started. There's a few of you watching at least. So basically, this is just a relatively short introduction to bits. It's for your benefit. It's so you can make an informed decision about whether bits is going to be right for you. We'll go through why you might want to get bits, maybe some circumstances in which you might not want to get bits, in which it might not be suitable for you. And at the end, I can answer any questions that you might have. So I'll just quickly run through the agenda before I start. So, first of all, we're going to talk about what a credit score is, why you might want a better one. We'll then move on to how you can get a better credit score and sort of where bits comes into all of this, how we can help you. Finally, we'll just go over a few common questions that people frequently ask in the early days of bits, maybe some sort of common misconceptions. And then finally, we can move on to your questions, and you can get your questions ready now and post them in the chat when it's time, and I'll sort of try and go through them one by one. So I'm Iggy. I am part of my sort of job here at Bits is called customer excellence, and this is just trying to help you get the most out of Bits, or indeed, if it looks like Bits isn't going to be suitable for you, then let you know. This is also we're here to try and help you build credit, basically. So that's who I am. I should say as well before I start, if you've got any feedback about this orientation, it's for you. So if you've got any feedback, please just drop us an email or even put it in the comments afterwards. That's absolutely fine. Positive or negative, oh, you didn't cover this important thing, or you spent too much time on this thing. Anything like that, would be very happy to receive it. So first things first, what is a credit score? Which you would think is a very simple question. Actually, it is one that trips people up reasonably often. So, the best way to think about a credit score is as what you might call a consumer facing product. So, it's not something which lenders see, it's something which you see, and it is designed by credit reference agencies to be a simple number that gives you an idea of the health of your credit file. So, as I say, only you can see it, lenders can't see it. What lenders see is your credit file, right? And that's what they will make decisions on, not your credit score, but your credit file. So, then when we move on to our next question, which is why might you want a better credit score? And I think you can see from what I've just said that getting a better credit score in and of itself is not really the goal. However, if you have a better credit score, then that suggests that your credit file is in better shape. And your credit file is quite important for decisions taken by lenders. And there are a few very common credit products, which, if you've got a better credit score, you will have greater access to. And some common examples of this are credit cards, but also mortgages. A lot of Bits customers are trying to get the best deal possible on their mortgage. They're sort of planning a few years ahead, and they're thinking, I'm going to apply for a mortgage in a couple of years. I want to come into that with the best credit score possible. So naturally, this brings us to the question of how exactly you can get a better credit score. Now, I could spend all day talking about how to get a better credit score. It's not necessarily a very simple process. There are lots of different things you can do. However, here at Bits, we like to sort of consolidate all that down to three main things that you can do, three main sources of good credit on your file, three sources of credit which, as long as you make your payments on time and you're responsible, are going to send a positive signal to lenders. And these are, first of all, having your name on utilities bills. Utilities bills are actually more or less a form of credit, because what tends to happen is that you use gas or electricity and then you settle up with your utilities provider later. So as long as you are paying utilities bills on time in your name, that's quite important, in your name, that should have a positive impact on your credit file. Similarly, getting a mobile phone contract. Getting a mobile phone contract, again, in a sense, it is a form of credit, because you tend to pay after you've used a certain amount of calls, a certain amount of data, etc. The sort of common factor between these two, and you might have already noticed it, is that these are forms of credit which come with very little stigma. They don't really say much about you as a person, except the fact that, if you're paying these things on time, well, that suggests that you're pretty creditworthy. But it doesn't come with any assumptions about you needing credit in the same way as a loan might. A small loan, that might signal to lenders, oh, they are in financial hardship. A mobile phone contract, not so much. That's seen as a fairly standard thing for people to have, and yet it's still a form of credit by using which you can demonstrate your creditworthiness. Now, this brings us on to the third sort of area in which you can build credit, and that is having a credit or a store card. Now, Bits reports as a store card. So what we are here to do is basically to make this third way to build credit a bit more accessible and a little bit simpler. So you don't have to get Bits. You could just, keep a sensible level of spending going on a bank credit card, assuming you can get one. A lot of people can't get a bank credit card, or they can only get one with a very high interest rate. But what Bits does is simplifies everything in this third area down to a simple monthly fee that you pay us for helping you to build credit. And we also try to make it a little bit safer than it might otherwise be. For instance, we warn you when you're about to spend too much of your credit limits. We warn you at the 20% mark. So these are the three basic ways that we think form the basis of a credit building strategy which is going to work for quite a lot of people. So that's utilities bills, a mobile phone contract, and a credit or store card which can be Bits. So I'll now just go over a few common questions, and then you can sort of hit me with your questions that you're going to put in the comment section. But it's worth just clearing up a few common questions right off the bat, just to save time, really. So the first question is, people go on after a couple of days, the Bits store appears, and they want to know, do I have to spend money in the Bits store in order to build credit? The simple answer is no, not at all. Spending in the Bits store will not help you to build credit any faster. In fact, as I sort of touched on just now, spending too much in the bit store is probably not a good thing for your credit file. So we say to keep spending to below 20%. And that's actually a really good general rule. So, say you're with bits for a couple of years and then you go on to get a bank credit card and you decide that you don't need bits anymore. You still want to keep spending on that credit card to a low level. 30% is often commonly sort of bandied around. We say 20% just to be on the safe side. But the key point is that credit utilization matters. Even if you're paying it off in full, you shouldn't use too much of your credit limit. So that is a slightly long answer to quite a simple question. No, you don't have to spend in the bit store in order to build credit, and it won't help you build credit any faster. Question 2, do I get my monthly fees back? This is an even simpler question. No, you don't get your monthly fees back. This is what we charge you for helping you to build credit. It's not a savings account. It's not in any way sort of loaded onto your card. It is a very simple monthly fee. Question number 3, who shouldn't use bits? Now, I would caution you, you should, if you haven't already, read through our terms and conditions. And these sort of spell out in a more exhaustive way all the people who shouldn't use bits, but I can just run through a few common scenarios now. So scenario number 1 is that you're already in debt. You're currently in debt. The reason we say in this situation that bits is not going to be necessarily right for you is the extent of any positive impact is probably going to be limited by the debt on your file, but more to the point, clearing that debt more quickly off your file is likely to be a better use of your money where your credit score is concerned than paying for bits. So instead of putting that £12 a month or whatever towards bits, you should probably, as a general rule, be putting that towards paying off your debt as quickly as possible. And that debt coming off your file is what's going to lead to a credit score increase. Now, sort of vaguely related to that is if you have received a default or a CCJ, or you've entered an IVA in the past 6 months. And I'll just go through those acronyms. So CCJ is a county court judgment. An IVA is an involuntary agreement. And these are things which you receive in general when you're in debt. And you probably shouldn't apply for any new credit accounts within 6 months of getting one of these things, just because it sort of signals a slight instability to lenders. So BITS is a credit account, and that's why you shouldn't be signing up to BITS within 6 months of one of these sort of credit incidents. Now, if you have settled defaults which are older than 6 months, a settled CCJ which is older than 6 months, then that should be fine. If your IVA has ended and it's older than 6 months, that should be okay. If you're still in an IVA which is older than 6 months, then you still can use BITS, but you should just make sure that you're on the £12 a month plan or less. And this is just to do with the credit limit that we report. When you're in an IVA, having too high a credit limit reported is not a good thing in general. So as I say, you really should read through our terms and conditions. They will give you a full picture of when you might not want to use BITS, but for your convenience, I've just outlined a few common ones which people ask about. Question number 4, how should I choose a plan? This is quite an interesting one. So when you're on a higher BITS plan, a higher credit limit is reported to Experian. Now, on average, a higher credit limit being reported, assuming, of course, that you're paying your fees on time and you're not overspending, those two things assuming those two things, a higher credit limit will have a greater impact on your score, a greater positive impact. So that's why you might want to choose a higher plan. However, we always say keep bits for at least a year, ideally a bit longer, because the average age of the credit accounts on your file is something which lenders take quite a lot of interest in. And keeping your bits account open for more than a year helps to keep that average age of your credit accounts at something reasonable. Now, remember, you can cancel at any time. This is just very general guidance about keeping the length of your credit accounts at a reasonable level. So, just circling back to the question, if you're thinking, well, I'm not prepared to pay £40 a month for a year, but I am prepared to pay £12 a month for a year, maybe even a few years. In this situation, you should probably go for the £12 plan, because the age of your bits account, as a general rule, trumps the impact of a higher credit limit. Bringing you on to our fifth. Oh no, not our fifth question. Bringing us on to your questions. So I'll just go over to the comment section now, and I'll sort of work through them one by one. We'll see how many we have time for. If I don't get to your question, you can always email us at hello@getbits.app. That's hello@getbits.app. And we can either respond to you via email, or we can arrange a call with you, a one-to-one call, and you can discuss with us your question. So please fire away with your questions. We've got one already here from True Blue. So True Blue says, I love the service, but I would like to know, what can I do with all these points that I have? Now, this, I think, is actually referring to the Bits Rewards program. I know there's been a bit of a delay on this. We are working on it. So Bits Rewards program, all it is, they're just loyalty points. So the longer you're with us, the more Bits Rewards points you accrue. You will be able to use these eventually, and they're probably going to be integrated with the Bits Store feature. This integration has not happened yet. We're working on it. We've got a few different projects sort of ongoing. This is one of them. So you will be able to use them. I'm sorry I can't give you a clearer answer as to when that might be. I would have thought in the next couple of months. However, I believe that was said a couple of months ago. So you'll just have to bear with us on this one. I mean, at the end of the day, they're loyalty points. They're not going to go anywhere. So just bear with us, and sorry for the delay on that. So Jane Brandstone says, so where is the online store to buy anything online? It's not really an online store so much as an in-app store. And you should be able to see that after a couple of days of having bits. This is actually a good time, just on that note, to walk you through how the Bit Store works in its current format and the way in which you'll be charged. So we've been sort of trying to navigate the best way that we can have the Bit Store there and give you a way to charge things to your credit account, but at the same time try and protect people from unnecessary debt. We're not like our business model is very much based around you paying us a monthly fee and we help you to improve your credit score. We really don't want anybody getting into debt. We don't charge any interest or anything like that. So it's important to us to try and make sure the Bit Store doesn't harm anybody. And so right now, how it works is that it is secured credit, and it's secured against your bank account balance. So when you purchase in the Bits store, that purchase will be charged to your Bits credit account, and your bank account, using the debit card that you provided us with, that will be charged 7 days later. However, in that intervening period, we will have blocked off a corresponding amount from your bank account, and that will mean you won't be able to spend that money on anything else in the meantime. So I think, you can probably see from this that as a standalone shopping product, Bits isn't that useful, right? Bits really is about helping you to improve your credit score. Now, if you've come into this and you've recently signed up, and you've misunderstood this, don't worry about it, and that's fine. You can cancel. I think you've got 14 days after you sign up to cancel with a full refund, no questions asked. If it's after that, you'll have to get in contact with us and sort of explain, the problem or the misunderstanding or whatever. But I'm just gonna, I think it's useful to sort of explain that at an early stage. Here we go. Okay. So Simon Toombs, why was I only allowed to buy one £20 voucher? And then when I tried to buy a second one, it went to my debit card. Wanted to buy £100 of vouchers. So when you are a new customer, in addition to what I've just said, when you're a new customer, there is a certain amount of velocity limit. So you can buy one voucher a day in the sort of very early days of your Bits membership. This is, again, just to protect you and to some extent to protect us as well. I mean, over the course of a month, you can charge things to your credit limit up to the value of your credit limit. But when you first signed up, you can't buy loads and loads of vouchers all in one go. So Jane Branson says, how do you spend your Bits money anywhere else? So Bits is it's a store card, and you can't spend it outside of the Bits store. Again, this is it's a credit building product, and everything that's in place is designed to make Bits as safe as possible. Basically, I mean, there is no such thing as a completely risk-free credit account, and if you fail to make your monthly payments on time, then they will be reported late, and that could harm your credit score. But aside from that, we've tried to make sure that people can't get into trouble using Bits in the same way that it can be quite easy to get into trouble when you're using a sort of bank credit card, especially a so-called credit builder card, which often has a very high rate of interest. Are you planning on any other retailers than supermarkets? No, not for the time being. And this fits with our philosophy of trying to sort of cultivate a sensible attitude to credit. And obviously in supermarkets, by and large, what they sell are sort of necessities, are sort of common things that you'd buy every week. We don't necessarily see value in allowing people to use Bits to make, big one-time purchases of hardware or something like that. I think we will probably be keeping it to supermarkets for the time being. I mean, if you're really interested, then drop us an email and I can sort of look into this further for you. I can ask some of my colleagues what's in the works. As far as I'm aware, it's going to be limited to supermarkets for the time being. Only 5 places to spend, 5 supermarkets. Does this list ever expand? No. Well, I mean, we are always looking at new places that you might be able to use Bits. So I think at one point it was mooted that you might be able to use Bits for fuel as well at sort of various petrol stations around the UK. I think for us, the focus is always, having said that, on helping, you guys to build up your credit score. The bit store is there. If you want to use it, you can, but you don't have to in order to build credit. And credit building is always sort of the goal when you're using bits. That's the end goal. Danielle Wilson says, do you have to buy things from the store, or can you just pay your monthly fee? So you absolutely do not have to buy things in the store in order to improve your credit score. In fact, spending too much in the store could be bad for your credit score. If you are trying to simply play it safe and build your credit score, the safest thing to do is not to spend in the bit store. It's not going to help you improve your credit score any faster. Yeah, it really is as simple as that. All you need to do is make sure that you make those monthly payments on time. If you don't do that, then you could have a late payment reported to Experian, and that could harm your score. But having the bit store card on your file, all else being equal, should help to improve your credit score. David Hadley, I'm an Avon representative. They give us credit. I have a credit limit of £350, and this shows on my credit file as mail order. Does the same apply as credit cards? Only stick to 30%. That is a really interesting question. Now, by the sounds of it, I would have to sort of research this more before giving you a concrete answer. By the sounds of it, what they have set up is sort of like a store card. And what you'd want to find out is whether they actually report this data to credit reference agencies. There is a chance they might not. I mean, we report to Experian because the whole point of bits is really to try and build up that payment history and improve your credit score, but not everyone does. So you'll want to probably contact them, find out, do you report to a credit reference agency? If so, which ones? If they do report to credit reference agencies and it's structured in the same way as a store card, then yes, the same advice applies. You probably should keep your credit limits utilization to less than 30%. Again, I would need to research this properly to give you a firm answer. Those are just my sort of initial thoughts. If they don't report to credit reference agencies, then nothing you do on that account will matter. If they do, and they might well do, then you probably should keep your utilization to less than 30%. So how do we pay in the supermarket? Oh, sorry, David's just said, yes, Avon is on my Experian. In this case, I mean, to be on the safe side, probably best to keep that utilization to below 30% if you can, sort of while you do more research. I mean, it sounds like it is structured in the same way as a store card. You've basically got a credit account and you decide how much of that to use. I mean, you can talk to Experian. You can email Experian, or if you've got the paid version of Experian, which is called Experian Credit Expert, you can also call them. And if you wanted to, you could even just get a 1-month free trial of Credit Expert, ask Experian this specific question on the phone, and then cancel if you wanted to. They are quite helpful. They'll be able to advise you if it is reported in the same way as a credit or store card. Just out of interest, I mean, I'll sort of move on to some other questions in the meantime, but where does Avon show up on your file? Does it say what kind of product it is? Because I know in the Experian app that I have, they divide up your credit accounts into loans, credit and store cards, and I think one other category, maybe mortgages. So it'd be interesting to know where Avon appears in those sections. Jane Branstone says, so how do we pay in the supermarkets with our Bits account? So all you need to do is go into the in-app Bits store. You can purchase an e-gift card that will be emailed out to you in a couple of days. Usually takes about 48 hours to process requests. Then, depending on the supermarket, you'll either be able to simply show that voucher, that gift card in the store, or you'll have to print it out. Now, off the top of my head, I think Aldi is the only one who requires you to print it out, but don't quote me on that. There might be another one or maybe two. In general, most of them just let you show it on your phone. I know for a fact that Waitrose and Tesco definitely let you just show it on your phone. Simon Toombs says, so when I buy a £20 voucher in the Bits store, you immediately hold off £20 from my registered bank account. Yeah, that sounds like pretty much a fair summary. The transaction is pre-authorized, it's secured credit, and it's secured against your bank account. So it will be charged to your Bits credit account. The transaction will be pre-authorized, which means that it won't go through if you don't have enough money in your account, in your bank account at the time of purchase. And then if it does go through, as in you pass the pre-authorization, that sum will be deducted from your available balance. Not charged, but deducted from your available balance, i.e. that money that you have available to spend. David, so you've said that Avon appears in your accounts and mail order. Okay, so I'm not familiar with the mail order category. If I were to guess, I would imagine the same rules apply as with credit and store cards, because you choose how much of your credit limit to utilize. But you know, it's definitely something worth investigating. I couldn't give you a concrete answer, but for sure, you know, if I were you, I'd go away and investigate that, really. So the questions have just dried up a little bit. I'll just give you guys, you know, maybe 5 more minutes just in case you've got any burning questions. In the meantime, I can mention another couple of ways that you might be able to improve your credit file. One is registering to vote if you haven't already done so. Registering to vote mainly just helps different lenders and the credit reference agencies sort of link up all your details. It's probably not going to lead to a massive increase, but it is really helpful sort of separately from your credit score. When you are making credit applications, when you're checking your credit score with the credit reference agencies, it can make life easier if you're registered to vote, because it makes you a lot easier to find and sort of identify. You don't have to be on the open register. You can be on the regular old electoral register. The open register anyone can obtain a copy of, and a lot of people don't want to be on that, and that's reasonable. But you don't have to be on that one in order to see the impact on your credit file. David says that you're going to phone them and see what they say and let me know, basically, which would be really great. I've never heard that question before, but I imagine it's probably a reasonably common situation. So yeah, it would be great for us to know what the situation is there so that we can help out other customers in the future. When you use more than 20%, why would that affect my credit score? That's a question from Dwayne. This is a really interesting question, and to be honest, it will depend on each individual lender. So some lenders will look at your file and see maybe 50% utilization, and for the specific credit products you're applying for, it won't bother them that much. Other lenders will see 20% usage and think, oh, this means that they have to use their credit limits. They can't just let it sit there. This suggests financial difficulties. Now, whether that's a sort of fair judgment is another matter, but they've obviously sort of looked at their data and they've seen, well, people who have access to credit and leave it alone and don't really spend anything on it at all, these people are probably not in financial difficulties, or else they would have used their credit limit. Whereas people who have used their credit limit on a regular or a semi-regular basis, well, these people might be more likely to be in financial difficulties because they've had to dip in to their credit account in order to make ends meet. As I say, it's going to vary lender to lender. In general, the way that credit scores are calculated, and remember, credit scores are just designed to give you an idea of your credit file health. As soon as you start spending more than about 30%, that credit score is automatically going to go down, because the credit reference agencies know that in general, lenders see that as a bad signal and they want to convey that information to you. And, this applies even if you're paying it off on time every month. This utilization point still stands. That's really important to realize. So I think that just about wraps it up, to be honest. It's been a pleasure. Please, if I haven't covered anything, feel free to drop us an email at hello@getbits.app. We can answer it for you on your email, or we can arrange a call with you. Either way, please ask any questions. Also, please give us any feedback you might have. I mean, these sessions are really to help you, and in order to better help future customers, it would be great to know what we should have covered and didn't. So I hope. Oh, sorry, we've just got a couple of late entries. Dwayne says, so does having the Bits app without spending help my credit rating? And does the more expensive credit options help more? So I did touch on these points earlier, but essentially you don't need to spend in the Bit store in order to build credit. Doing so won't build your credit score any faster. In fact, you should keep your utilization below about 20%. And we warn you about this. We do warn you when you try to spend more than that. We say, caution, this might harm your credit score. So the simple answer is no. All you have to do is pay your monthly fees on time and not spend too much in the store, and that should help to improve your credit score. So, Gary, I think I've just covered your question. Let me know if I haven't, but you don't have to spend anything in the Bit store to build credit. In fact, you shouldn't spend too much. Simon says, sorry, but I need more clarity on this. It's not very clear. If I go to the Bit store and... no, if your credit score, if your bank account, is empty at the time of purchase, you won't be able to buy anything in the Bit store. It's pre-authorized and the transactions will not go through. Sarah says, oh, you were stuck at work. Will the session be recorded? Yes, it should just appear on our YouTube channel after I end this live stream. It should appear there for everyone to view. I'll try and just double check to make sure that it is public, but yeah, it certainly should be. You certainly should be able to re-watch it afterwards. So I hope you're all having a good week so far, and I'm sure I'll sort of interact with you all a bit going forward. But for now, have a lovely rest of your evening. And again, please get in touch if you've got any queries or questions.